Thank you for your patience. I say 5:30, but I've always started at 5:45 because y'all come in late. If you don't know where you are right now, this is CPW, Center for Photography at Woodstock, formerly in Woodstock, now we're in Kingston. And this is actually a temporary home. Soon we'll be over at 25 Diederich Street, 25 Diederich Street, which is about like a block and a half away. So hopefully by mid next year, we'll be doing these with much more space to run around over at our new building. Some of you might have come out for our festival over the weekend. That is where our new home is, and that was really fun. I'm just gonna make a couple announcements before I get started with the main event. Here's our main event. Okay. My name is Sarah Danziger. I am the education coordinator here at CPW. I put together a really fun summer workshop series. We're heading right into our last month in August. Very excited about some of the things we have. So if you're interested in kind of learning some new tricks or putting your work in front of other people to hear what they think about it in a non-judgmental way, we've got 2 slots left of the critique intensive with Justine Curlin. That's next weekend. We have explorations in visual storytelling with Keitra Kahana. Very special. You might be seeing her work on the cover of New York Times and National Geographic. We're gonna get really weird. I feel like this is for this group. Wet Plate Studio with Meg Turner. If you don't know her work, I suggest you take a look. It's very weird and fun, and we're gonna be over at a new building, building sets together and making tintypes all weekend. So that's gonna be really fun. Then we have Photographing Your Community with Elias Williams, who's a former air here, who lives in the Bronx. He is phenomenal. Imagine him lugging around an 8x10 camera around his neighborhood of St. Albans, making pictures of his community. So that's gonna be really fun. He's gonna talk about his process, and we're gonna do workshops together. And then we have another wet play, which is gonna be on location at a very beautiful private estate here in Kingston. So anyway, just wanted to get that out there because we have a few slots left this month. So what we're really here for is our Meet the Artist series, which is every Thursday from 5:30 to 7:30. And tonight we have Carla Rhodes. Conservation photographer Carla Rhodes tells visual tales of the natural world, focusing on overlooked and misunderstood. From endangered storks to everyday moths, her work is a testament to the beauty found in the unexpected. Her journey, once rooted in the realms of comedic ventriloquism, yes, now flourishes in the wild, capturing images that inspire and educate. Skillfully morphing her narrative craft from stage's spotlight to the boundless theater of the wilderness, she's truly a wild storyteller, unveiling the hidden narratives of the unsung heroes of the wild. Published in New York Times, Wall Street Journal, The Guardian, and more, Carla's images challenge perspectives while encouraging a deep appreciation of our shared environment. Can we welcome Carla wherever she is?
For Sarah. Thanks everybody for coming out. I'm presenting for 3.5 hours tonight, so get comfortable. The power was out the whole way, so thank you for braving it. This is from comedy to conservation, and I'm Carla Rhodes, conservation photographer, and it's truly an honor to be here tonight. So thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank you so much. So as I mentioned, I'm a conservation photographer, and today I'll be sharing my journey from comedy to conservation photography. Hey folks, come on in. Welcome. Let's hear it for the folks coming in. Welcome, welcome. So believe it or not, my past life since I was 8 years old was spent pursuing ventriloquism. I'm not kidding you. And through a series of strange events, I accidentally found conservation photography. So join me tonight while I share with you how I went from making people laugh to helping wildlife through photography. And I'll also be sharing key photographic projects along the way. So a lot of folks ask, what is conservation photography? And for me, this quote by Joel Sartore sums it up the best. The typical nature photograph shows a butterfly on a pretty flower. The conservation photograph shows the same thing, but with a bulldozer coming at it in the background. So I thought to demonstrate this, I would share a few photos that we can compare and contrast. Welcome, let's hear it for another audience member. Thank you for coming. So I took this actually at the beginning of my photographic journey. This was taken here in the Catskill Mountains. And here we have two adorable fox kids. And I mean, what does this communicate to you all? Where's Mama? To me, the one on the right saying human beings that are destroying my environment rapidly. I'm a little bit depressed and worried. But on the surface, I mean, this is an okay, decent, species photo, right? Next photo was taken 30 minutes later. Wow. So what does that communicate to you? This, to me personally, is more of a conservation photograph. To me personally, this photo says so much more than the first. We could talk about human beings' disgusting obsession with consumption because the fox kit is in a shopping cart. There's trash. There's lots more storytelling. So this is showing where my conservation eye was developing. So what does conservation photography mean to me? Everybody has a different definition of this, but for me, conservation photography is going beyond just taking a picture, photographing for the greater good and giving back to the issue at hand. The impact for me personally happens way after the photo is taken. So how can I use this photographic work to educate and inspire others to protect our natural world? And how can I amplify these issues to a broad, wide audience to educate about wildlife? Let's hear it from my husband for showing up. I wouldn't be doing this without my husband. He believes in me more than anyone else and has kept me out of the nut house. So back to our program. Another thing, as a conservation photographer, in the field, I adhere to a very strict code of ethics. So what does this mean? It means I'm always prioritizing the welfare of wild subjects. I never disturb wildlife through baiting, luring, or calling, and I never disturb their natural behavior intentionally. It's incredibly important to me to always put the welfare of the subject first.
I've missed so many opportunities for great photographs because I have chosen to put the welfare first. I would never feel good about taking a photo of wildlife if I knew I had disturbed them. And this is actually a big problem in the wildlife photography world, but I walk the walk and I want to lead by example. If you want to read more about ethics and wildlife photography, check out the North American Nature Photography Association. I am a member, and they have a whole ethics board that has made a big thing you can read about ethics. Another thing that I always provide accurate and truthful captions. So, my photos are not manipulated besides basic processing. If they are manipulated, that will be listed in the caption. If it's a photo stack, etc. So the main goal of conservation photography for me, I really want to leave a lasting impact on the world. Truly, if my photos just sit on my hard drive unseen, they are absolutely useless to me. My work is all about the greater good. So, how did I find conservation photography, you may be wondering? Through a series of random events, photography actually found me. So we have some very weird beginnings here. So since I was 8 years old, I wanted to be the most successful, fabulous ventriloquist in the world. Some of you might remember Sherry Lewis and Lamb Chop. She was actually my mentor. She taught me at a very early age that anything was possible. She started writing back to me because I would write her once a week and tell her about being bullied at school and all these other things. And I think she eventually felt bad for me and started to write back. And she is probably one of my biggest influences. So I went to college in Tennessee. To graduate, all you had to learn to do is spell Tennessee. So T-E-N-N. I moved to New York City. I'd always wanted to live in New York City. And I moved there in 2004 to pursue my dreams of being a ventriloquist. And I performed many places. I was lucky enough to appear on television. I traveled internationally. I even performed in Iceland, which was pretty wild. And I met many of my heroes. I did kiss Mick Jagger, but I think I was about 23 at the time, so I was too old for him. So I met a lot of my heroes through this, but in my heart, I deeply felt something was missing. I just didn't feel fulfilled by what I was doing. It took me a long time to catch up on that being a world famous ventriloquist may not be possible. But I did hold the questions till the end, fine sir. Just because you have a hat. This is one of my favorite things I ever did. This is actually my apartment in Greenpoint. This is how I knew my husband really loved me. He let me turn our whole living room into a TV set. And this is the plight of Cecil. Cecil was actually made in the 1920s. And we did this little series. It's totally crazy. There's Fatty Arbuckle jokes and all these archaic references that no one understood, but I love it. So that was that. Now we have the call of the wild. That is a barred owl. And when I moved up here, it scared the crap out of me. I thought it was a ghost in the woods. Who cooks for you? No one. I cook for myself. So I actually got my first DSLR in 2015 to produce videos of my ventriloquism work. And this led me to turn my lens on wildlife, especially while visiting the Catskill Mountains, where I now live full time. And before I knew it, I had fallen in love with the process of photography, and I was hooked. And as I did it more and got more into nature, it fulfilled me on deep levels and provided happiness that I had never felt before. And it also showed me the world from a new point of view and gave my life more of a purpose. And I saw that maybe I could combine all my skills from the past to help something bigger than myself. So this is where stuff gets crazy. This is saying yes to adventure, even though I was scared shitless. So in 2018, I was asked to travel to India to be part of a reality television pilot. And this involved navigating a motorized rickshaw through the Himalayas. That is what I did. I'm serious. That is what I did. I'd always... Photoshop, not Photoshop. I can always count on my husband to heckle. I'd always wanted to go to India, but I was truly terrified. Speaking of my husband, about a week before I was supposed to leave, I was crying and I didn't want to go. And he said in his New York accent, "Why don't you have some coffee? If you don't go, you're going to regret it your whole life." And little did I know, this whole trip would change my life. And in a rickshaw, we traversed some of the highest and most dangerous roads in the world. We reached an altitude of over 17,000 feet. I did get very altitude sick and I had to get oxygen. A lot of weird things happened and it was very cold. These are the Himalayas, you know, Mount Everest, but we're in India. These are some photos. This is me on the left, high up in the Himalayas in the Eastern Kazum range. And this is at almost 15,000 feet. This is a monastery. I actually didn't take a heavy coat because I didn't even look at where we were going. So I have a field coat and I'm wearing like 10 layers under it. The upper right is me driving the rickshaw. And if you saw the photo before, to the left, it drops thousands and thousands of feet. That was pretty terrifying. And I remember my teammate, he grabbed the wheel and he said, "You're not driving anymore." At the bottom, I had to get oxygen shortly after this. This is us stuck high up in the Himalayas and me pushing my teammate out of the mud Shortly after this, we actually made it to a paved road, and I remember falling down and kissing the pavement. And I'm really kind of glad this series never aired because it's just a bunch of me crying and things. So up next, we have Awesome Assam. My career is kind of a series of accidents, and I ended up in Assam pretty much by accident. After barely surviving the rickshaw run, which was the name of the adventure that I forgot to tell you, I ventured to Assam because I wanted to see an elephant in the wild. I love elephants since I was little, and I'd always wanted to see one. Assam, as you can see, is way up here. So this is India and this is Assam, where by Bhutan it takes 3 days to get there. And I chose Assam because it was the only place that had a national park open at the time. They also have rhinos and a crazy monkey with like a toupee. It's pretty amazing. And I did this adventure and I saw some amazing wildlife. It was just mind-blowing. And en route, from one point to another, I saw a giant dinosaur standing by the side of the road. And I nicely asked the driver, can you please stop? What is that bird? I mean, it literally looked like a Muppet if it was fronting the Ramones. Like, I don't even know how to explain seeing this bird. And the driver told me that this was an endangered Greater Adjutant. And I asked if I could see more of these birds. And I thought he would take me to a wetland or a forest, you know, something like that. But he took me to the most apocalyptic place I've ever been in my whole life that has the biggest year-round concentrations of Greater Adjutants in the world, the Borogoan landfill. And this is what I saw. And this moment completely changed my life. It's very cheesy and American to be like, India changed my life, but it did. This was the day before I was supposed to leave. These trash heaps are higher than this building, and these Greater Adjutants rain over the top. You can see black kites, a type of raptor. And if I lived in the trash, this is totally me. I'd just be chilling. You can almost smell it. But I fell in love with these birds. And this moment changed my life. So let me tell you about my favorite bird in the whole wide world. This is the Greater Adjutant. It's one of the world's rarest and most endangered storks. There's only 800 to 1,200 of these birds left in the world. Assam is the last stronghold for this bird. It harbors over 80% of the global population. Threats to Greater Adjutants include loss of habitats, loss of nesting trees, and also, I don't know about you all, but a lot of times when you hear about endangered species, tigers, all these charismatic species, you don't hear about the underdogs, which is fine. I want all the endangered species to get attention. But my theory is a lot of the reason why we're losing a lot of wildlife is they just don't get the same coverage as other wildlife. These birds are 5 feet tall. I am 5'7". So if you imagine, and they have a wingspan of 8 feet, when I was watching them soar over me, I'm basically a 3-year-old. You've probably already figured that out. I mean, I just thought I was in Pee-wee's Playhouse watching Petrie the pterodactyl fly around. I mean, it was friggin' incredible. A lot of people don't like scavengers. One of my other favorite birds are turkey vultures. Did you know that they pee on their legs to keep cool? I do too. But they play a really important role in our ecosystem. If we didn't have scavengers, dead bodies would just be lying everywhere. They're nature's cleanup crew. So I came back home from this adventure. I performed my last show in Brooklyn and said, I'm going to dedicate my whole life to conservation photography. And luckily I was in the position where I could do that. Something changed in me and I felt like I wanted to do this. So I dream big. You know, I dream big. I call it failing upwards. I just make the biggest dreams in the sky. People say no, I go to someone else. I fail, I fail, I fail. And I decided when I got back that I really wanted to go back, especially because I read about a group of Assamese women who were saving these amazing and beautiful birds. And so I made it my mission to go back to Assam and self-produce a photo essay on endangered greater adjutants and the women who are saving them. Surprise, I had never shot a story. Everyone thought I was nuts. And I applied for grants. I got rejected from them all. I got rejected by every editor that I pitched to. And I went anyway. And I went in early 2020. So the women say, one of the women that is saving the birds, Purnima, says this: a dream is not a dream until you lose sleep. And I just love this. For me, it's true. All my dreams, I lose sleep in a good way. And so let me tell you about Purnima Devi Barman, who is a very close friend and one of the most, I know a lot of amazing women who are here, but Purnima is an incredible woman. And some of you actually met her when she came to visit last summer. And she founded a group called the Hargila Army, where she mobilized the community to save greater adjutants. And Hargila is Assamese for bone swallower, because they can literally swallow whole bones. And she leads these conservation efforts by protecting nesting sites and saving fallen baby birds and educating the community on the importance of what is in their own backyards. And thousands of women are now involved in this movement. They receive tools like looms and sewing machines, and so they can earn additional income. And children are actually educated about the importance of protecting greater adjutants as well through awareness programs. I went to some school programs when I was there. It was just incredible. And so through Purnima's hard work, she has brought these birds that were previously demonized into the hearts and minds of people. A lot of people in the Catskills don't like fishers. They don't like coyotes. They don't like rattlesnakes, which is insane because they are incredible, beautiful animals. So imagine if someone in this area started a coyote brigade, you know, it's very similar. No one liked this bird before she started her work. And her work serves as an inspirational model for community-led conservation efforts. So now I'll show you some photos from the trip. So this is actually a Hargila Army member's backyard. So this is a very tall tree. I think it might be a silk cotton tree, I'm not sure. But imagine if you're just sitting in your backyard, and so that's what they do. They nest high up in these trees. This is Purnima doing outreach in the village, and I remember this little kid knew exactly who the Hargila was, kept pointing at the poster. It was incredible. This is when I was standing on a roof and watching mommy and daddy, greater adjutant, with their little baby. So this was pretty incredible. This is at one of her programs. And I'm just getting, it was so cool to see this and be embraced by this community. I'll be grateful my whole life for her allowing me into her world. Her whole team is behind her, and what she's holding, the women in the Hargila Army loom greater adjutants into their textiles. So if you want to pass this around, this is what she's holding. My friend Daphne will be in charge of getting it back, because if I held that, I'd steal it, but you guys ain't gonna. She also does coloring with the kids. So this is Hargila at the garbage dump. And this is Pravita. She's hand looming greater adjutants into traditional Assamese gamoses. This is incredible to see. And while I was there, a woman named Janoli, also in the Hargila Army, she started stitching these Hargila bags. We are for the Hargila. Hargila even shows up at weddings. I got to go to an Assamese wedding, which was wild. And this is Mindy, also known as him in here. And you can see they've done greater adjutants on the arms at the wedding ceremony. And these are the women of the Hargila Army. This is a cricket match. And a roving statue of Hargila shows up, and they educate people about Hargila. And here we have Hargila taking off. This is an air sac, which can be triggering, but it inflates and deflates. No one actually knows what it does. I like to think it holds dreams. And here's some more. I feel like to me, this looks like the next incarnation of the Ramones or something. I can just see them fronting a punk band. And to me, they all have different personalities. The younger ones have more gray eyes. The ones with the electric yellow throats are in their breeding plumage. She did outreach at the garbage dump. These are actually people that live there. We're absolutely spoiled as Americans, you guys. Spending time here changed my whole life. These were some of the nicest people I've met. I would go every day alone. This little boy one day tapped me on the shoulder and ran and went hi in like the most garish American accent. These people are incredible. And so she took them food and working with them with Greater Adjutants, because what's interesting, most people can't get close to the Greater Adjutants, but the people that live and work there can stand right next to them. This is one of my favorite photos I took because it's a Hargila feather in the trash. And to me, it just says a lot about how we disregard and disrespect species. This is the feather. See how big this is? And this is a small, very small feather. I have a much bigger one at home. Don't tell anyone I brought that back, you guys. And here, it's a garbage dump. In America, we are disconnected from so many things. We don't see our garbage. And I'm a little bit of a hoarder now. I cringe when I throw things away. Yeah, I know, you too. It's your future. We got to think about our future, y'all. So positive impacts. So Purnima's work has had a positive and inspiring impact on the local community and beyond. Because of her amazing work, the local population has risen from 950 birds it used to be only 400 birds when she started. And the number of nesting colonies in the villages has also risen up to 220 nests. And when she started, there were only 28 nests. And Purnima's work inspires me daily and really taught me to look closer at what's in my own backyard, the power of community and the power of, even if you only have a tiny space, focusing on it and stewarding it and taking care of it. Every single person, whether if you plant one flower, you can make a difference. So remember how I told you everyone rejected me? Well, the photos from this project were actually a great success. I wrote a piece for the New York Times with photos. An amazing online magazine, Biographic, ran a feature. It was also a National Wildlife magazine. There was a feature on Now This News. It won a conservation award for Bird Photographer of the Year in 2021. Thank you. It ran a bunch of other places, but I ran out of space. But I'm sharing this not only just to showboat, but to show you, if you believe something, do it. Don't listen to people. In my own life, the majority of people that tell me no are wrong. So Purnima is one of my favorite people I've ever met. This is us hanging out in Guwahati, the capital city of Assam, looking all cute. And then this is when she was in New York last summer. It was amazing. We even went to my favorite bakery, Overlook, and she went into the bakery and met all my friends. It was just incredible. It's a commercial break. We might need a little volume. I didn't know there was a commercial break. This commercial break is sponsored by moths. It's National Moth Week. Let's celebrate! The leader of the moth mafia. If you like butterflies, she'll break your legs. Here's a really adorable rosy maple moth to kick things off. Let's talk about why moths matter, folks. Moths are a key food source for a wide variety of wildlife, including bats and birds. It's estimated that 96% of all terrestrial bird species in North America feed insects to their young, with the majority being caterpillars of moths, the protein bars of the insect kingdom. Moths serve as the main dietary food source for bats when moths aren't jamming their sonar. Did I mention moths such as the gorgeous Luna moth spins its tail and literally jams bats' sonar? Moths play an essential role in pollination. Scientists recently found out that moths pollinate more than bees. And moths are also an indicator of the health of the environment and climate change. The world's on fire. This is a small-eyed sphinx moth. One thing I love about moths is their endless kaleidoscope of sizes, shapes, and colors. 1 in 10 described species of organisms on Earth are moths. You know, this is going to take a while because the moths bought a lot of ad space in the presentation. This is a forest tent caterpillar moth. They're also really cute. Did you know that moths outnumber butterflies 9-to-1? Hey, some moths have insane camouflage. Can you spot the moth in this photo? The first person to come up and point out the moth in the photo wins a prize. You have to come up and literally point out the moth, and you win a prize. Please, someone come and point out the moth and win a prize. They haven't where's the moth? Wait, who's got the laser pointer? Who's cheating? Oh yeah, where's the moth? Yeah! You win! Your butt shaker, the Mentos prize back. That's a unicorn prominent moth camouflage on white pine bark. It's estimated there are an astonishing 150,000 to over 500,000 species of moths and only 19,500 species of organisms that we call butterflies. This is one of my favorite moths. This is the hummingbird clearwing moth. Let's hear it. A day-flying moth. This is my spark moth. I remember seeing it at a nursery and going like, what the heck is that? Am I on drugs? Probably, but it was a day-flying moth. Speaking of day-flying moths, butterflies are now classified by scientists as day-flying moths, and this was discovered by genetic sequencing. So if you really want your brain to be blown, butterflies are moths. Wow. Oh, look at my friends showing up late. Let's welcome Rosie and Michael! So another thing I love about moths are their ridiculous names. This is a mint-loving pyrusta moth. It loves mint. And when you're planting a native plant garden, don't just think about bees and butterflies. Think about moths, because it's estimated that 90% of moths feed on only one type of plant. And if you bring in the moths, you bring in more creatures who love caterpillars, such as birds, bats, and more. Nature's bird feeder. And I add to my native garden every year, and as a result, I've gained diverse insights into what's going on with moths. And trees also attract moths. For example, an oak tree hosts over 470 species of moths. Here's an example. This is evening primrose. I planted this 3 years ago. Last summer, the primrose moths showed up. That's a moth that lives on evening primrose, you guys. So how can you help moths? You can be part of the solution. Your role is crucial. Create beneficial environments. Turn off your outside lights when they're not in use. Inspire others to join the moth mafia. Participate, document, and contribute. Scientists need our data. iNaturalist, and more. And National Moth Week is literally going on right now. So let's celebrate. Happy National Moth Week. And thank you to the moths for that commercial break and the prize package sponsored by Sam's Club and Mentos. Oh, we gotta make some room. We're at capacity. We sold it out. Thanks again for coming, y'all. So I had talked about Purnima inspiring me to look closer at my surroundings, and she really did, because something happened a few years ago called the pandemic. Do we want to do the moth part again? My finger hit the wrong button. So I started focusing on my backyard. So during the pandemic, remember the pandemic, you guys? It's so much fun, right? No? Okay, yeah, it wasn't fun. But I channeled my creativity into my backyard, and I wondered what would happen if I placed a camera trap beneath my bird feeder. All the photos I've ever seen of birds at the bird feeder are above. So I worked on this project every single day during the winter months of 2020 to 2021, and it's currently an ongoing project every winter. And the goal of this project is to share the beauty of overlooked common species in the hopes that viewers would be inspired to look in their own backyards. And this project was fun to me because it revealed insights into species behavior and offered brand new perspectives on common everyday birds. Ethical considerations were at the forefront of this project. If I do have a bird feeder, if you're in the Catskills, please only hang it when bears are down for the winter. I see someone laughing, you're in trouble. You should never have up a bird feeder in bear country. A fed bear is a dead bear. You are encouraging the death of bears and other wildlife. So hang the bird feeder in the winter if you got bear neighbors. While doing this, I always made sure that the bird feeders were clean and sanitized, rotated, and raked underneath. And I've also worked every year on adding more native food sources to my garden and leaving my garden wild in the winter, nature's bird feeder. So these are some photos from the project. This is a dark-eyed junco, an overlooked sparrow that lots of people are like drab, but juncos are really rad. You can see it's like, hey, y'all. This is a tufted titmouse. They're totally adorable. This is a gray squirrel. This is a black-capped chickadee, one of my favorites. This is a northern cardinal, very handsome fellow. Now, this was one of my favorite things, was seeing this ecosystem it created. This is Notches, a deer mouse. You can see the notch in the ear. And what's interesting, a lot of people write off mice, but they're working hard for us. So you see that little plant growing? I wondered what was there. Mice collect seeds and it grew into milkweed. So thanks, Notches. This is one of the most, this made the project of working every single day on this for months worth it. This is a northern short-tailed shrew, North America's only venomous mammal. It is a serial killer in your backyard. It paralyzes snakes, even mice, drags it to its den and slowly eats them. And I love them. It's just, if they don't eat every 10 minutes, they die. And it was just a joy to watch this shrew. It was also a joy to see how ridiculous wildlife is. This is a red squirrel. And this is a junco landing in the snow. And this is where the lens completely froze over and the little junco's looking in and going, hey, y'all. There's a lot more photos from this project. My mind has really been blown about how this has touched people with this project. It has appeared in the Wall Street Journal, The Guardian, Science Friday came and filmed a whole piece on it. Cornell's Living Bird magazine did a feature on it this winter. It's been in National Wildlife magazine. It's been in Audubon magazine. It came out in a magazine in Germany a few months ago. And it's kind of had a life of its own. And I'm proud of it because, again, these aren't birds like in Africa or a tropical place. These are birds in your own backyard that we can all see. This is newer work from last year. Yes. White. We got a birder in the house. Do the sound. Oh, sweet Canada.
That I wouldn't.
Oh, wait, I forgot there's people here. The one thing I failed to mention is I am from Kentucky, and I went back to Kentucky to do a bunch of work last year at Bernheim Forest, located in Claremont, Kentucky. Do you like bourbon? Because that's where they make all the bourbon. Bernheim Forest is the largest privately held forest block in the eastern U.S. They can serve over 16,000 acres. It provides clean air, water, and scenic beauty to the region while combating climate change. Unfortunately, it's currently threatened by a gas pipeline, which is really ridiculous in this day and age. I was Bernheim's first ever environmental artist in residence, which was an honor. And I tried to document the biodiversity in the least accessible places. I think a lot of people don't think Kentucky is very biodiverse. But my mind was completely blown by the stuff I saw in Kentucky. It really reconnected me with my roots in a way that I never expected. I have 4 pairs of overalls now, and when my husband would call me, I'd be like, I'm busy in my cabin. I can't talk right now. So it was a really good experience. And I really hope my photographs help provide a call to action to protect and preserve this important natural resource. The pipeline battle is unfortunately ongoing. This is camera trap work. This is a beaver, which appeared in a wetland that Bernheim restored that had been gone for over 100 years. This is the wetland that they restored. And what's exciting when you restore and steward your lands, amazing things happen. Like this American bittern showed up. It hadn't been officially reported within Bernheim or seen in decades. It's a very shy, secretive bird. And this photo was an accident. That's why I love camera trapping, which is essentially, I forgot to even explain what it is. It's like a wildlife selfie. You have to guess as a photographer, you set up a camera, you have to guess the focus, you have to guess everything ahead of time and hope it all lines up. This is an underwater shot of a tadpole with a mass of salamander eggs. I discovered while I was there that they eat a lot of salamander eggs, which is pretty wild. This is a redbud, a beautiful tree. You can even eat the blossoms. And one morning I woke up and the sky was pink with the pink blossoms. This is a beaver dam. This was actually in the main area of the park. One night I was sitting at my cabin and I saw a beaver swimming, and I called the biologist, and they're like, we didn't even know there was a beaver there. And we went out and scouted, and a huge dam hiding in plain sight. It had always been my dream to set up on a beaver dam because I study a lot of track and sign. It's how I choose every single location, studying animal behavior. And wildlife uses beaver dams as a highway. Think about it. Would you walk all the way around the pond, or would you use the bridge a beaver made? So this is pipeline stuff. This is Cedar Grove Wildlife Corridor. Different entities own wildland around it. And unfortunately, this area is rapidly developing. You can see in the upper right corner, those are all warehouses. And so the pipeline is going to slice right through here. This is Kentucky glade cress. It only grows in Bullitt County, Kentucky, on a glade, which is limestone, where nothing else can grow. The pipeline will destroy the glade cress, and it only grows in a few locations. This is one of my favorite creatures ever. This is the 2-millimeter bluff vertigo snail that only lives on buggy limestone. Unfortunately, the pipeline will destroy their habitat, and there's only a few locations of them there. Just to show you how impossibly small these are. This is the bluff vertigo on a quarter. So you can see that's at 5x macro. This is one of my favorite animals is the opossum, and so which they thought was hilarious. I don't see them as much as I'd like to up here, but in Kentucky, there was one in my cabin, there was one in my car, there was one eating next to me at Cracker Barrel. They are everywhere. But I wanted to show what else used the snail rock. So these snails are kind of like Fraggle Rock. This is buggy limestone, and they're tiny little holes, and the little snails come out of these little holes. And they're they're like, hey, I'm a snail. So this is a little possum going past the rock. So if you'd like to help, this is currently ongoing. Visit forestunderthreat.com. And the photographs from this project have been featured in The Guardian, Feature Shoot, and Sierra Magazine to hopefully amplify the issue. But visit that, make your voice heard, and of course, make your voice heard for local issues around here. There is way too much development going on in the Catskills, as we all know. So in conclusion, what I would like to express to everyone is never be afraid to fail, ever. Follow your heart and stay curious and brave, and you'll be very surprised where you may end up. That's all. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Holy cow. And thank you for coming, everyone. I guess I can bring up recent projects. But do we have any questiones? Andy, you can't, my husband cannot ask a question. I'm not sleeping outside tonight.
Well, have you ever been to the Washington Post?
Not yet. Next question.
It's called Bernheim.
Bernheim
Is
Forest.
that a huge area that many years ago, decades ago, 100 years ago, was logged or mined?
Yes, yes. So that was founded by Isaac Bernheim, who came from Germany and became a bourbon baron. He was Jewish, of course, like my beautiful husband, and did great work to save Bernheim. And it was a gift to the citizens of Kentucky for Forever Wild, where anyone, no matter what economic, what ethnicity, they could all go and enjoy nature. And that's their whole mission, to connect people with nature. It's an incredible place. They're very supportive of artists. They have huge, beautiful sculptures. If you're in that area, it's right by the Bourbon Trail. My cabin was literally across from Jim Beam. When I came back, I brought Andy, I got to Jim Beam at 9 in the morning and got Andy a bottle of bourbon that's like 1 million proof that they only sell 2 a day.
Also, what's unethical or wrong with calling birds or
Oh, you're a
wildlife?
birder. I mean, so ethics aren't black and white. When you call a bird in, though, you're stopping them from doing breeding behavior. You're exhausting the energy that they have to breed or do things. So if a scientist or someone wants to do that, great. But I feel like as a photographer, I don't really have a right to do that. Everybody has a different thing about calling in birds. I don't do it, but I mean, I don't really like try to preach too much about it because, again, ethics aren't black and white. But for me personally, I just think birds already have it hard enough. And if they, when you call in a bird, basically, it would be like someone going like this. I'll demonstrate. So I'm here. Carla, I have a bunch of artisanal ice cream for you to eat. And then I run over and stop my presentation and there's no ice cream. You know, they just use up their energy. And it's not bad. I mean, everybody, I learn as I go, you know, and everybody makes mistakes. So it's not, and I don't really judge people. All I can share is like what I do, you know.
You said it took 3 days to get to Assam.
It
Is
did.
that 3 days from JFK or from New Delhi?
So from Delhi, you have to do an overnight, and then it took like a day and a half. It was a journey.
Yeah.
It was a journey. Quite the question.
Zoe wants to know, can you remind us the name of this bird?
That is a Greater Adjutant stork. The second most rarest stork in the world. It used to be the rarest, but then Purnima helped them, so they're
Is it
this.
the largest?
I think so. I'm a genius, but I don't know everything. Wait, another question.
How you're capturing those photographs, the tracking photographs, especially at night, not knowing much about photography, I'm just curious. You're not only getting a high resolution image of the bird
Right.
foreground, but I was seeing stars in the background.
Yeah.
So is it a long exposure or is it a fast, how does that work?
So it's all different. Camera trapping is really tricky because imagine taking a photo when you're not there. So it involves a lot of failure. I've learned more about photography through camera trapping than any other art form because it's so challenging. So that's by dragging the shutter. You do a longer exposure, and if the flash goes off, it freezes and the shutter stays open to expose what is left. And it's all kind of an experiment. When I do a camera trap, I really, assessing the habitat and track and sign is so important. And then I can make a decision guessing, does this animal come during the day? Does it come at night? And go from there with the settings. But it's a lot of trial and error. Yes.
First, I'd like to thank you for your presentation. I loved all the photography and the educational parts and even the dialectic about moral relativism and burning.
Oh, thank you.
My question is about, I've seen like a game camera
Right.
that takes a black and white image, but obviously this is not a game camera. This is like
Right.
a serious DSLR. How do you set it up?
Okay, so that's a great question. And there was so much more I wanted to explain because it's actually my favorite type of photography. So you can do it all different ways. You can do it for cheap, you can go expensive. I'm a kind of middle of the road gal with everything. Like I'm wearing a Adolfo International, middle of the road. Sorry, my friend gave me this blazer. He was a big designer in the 90s. So my camera, I buy really old DSLRs. There's never been a better time to buy a DSLR because every photographer is going mirrorless and you can get really good glass for cheap. And it's in basically a Pelican case. And the system I use is there is a passive infrared sensor similar to what a game or trail cam would be. Animal process sends a signal to the setup, which then triggers the flash and the shutter. It's kind of complicated. When I first got my setup, I looked at it for weeks and just cried.
The battery's just on?
I use lithium batteries that last for a really long time. There are different ways that you can do it. Some companies to check out are Camtraptions and Cognisys. I'm a Cognisys gal myself. And you can build your own rig as well. If you're good at that type of thing. I'm personally not allowed to have a soldering iron anymore. Because I would burn my hand and stuff, but you can build, if you Google it, there's a lot of info online. And for me, anything I learn, I'm self-taught, and everything I've self-produced, every single one of my stories. So I kind of just jump in and learn. So I hope that's helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
Like thinking about like things that like make you fearful or scared shitless, is there anything that you thought about that like you want to do but really makes you like seriously want to go to the bathroom and throw up?
Man, I wish, what comes to mind when I'm more scared of humans than wildlife. I really am. And I don't know how to answer that because when I'm in the field, like when I was in Kentucky, I'm learning to photograph bats and they set me up at a little opening in a cave. And I was sitting there for a few hours from 11 until 2 in the morning. And I finally left because I thought, if there's a human back here, I'm kind of dead. And so I don't know how to answer it. When I'm in the field, I'm so much more scared of encountering humans than wildlife. So I don't know how to answer it because I'm trying to think of something that I feel like wildlife, they let you know, and if I die being eaten by wildlife, that's a lot cooler than dying in your sleep. So
Yeah, good word.
I know, right?
Carla, you have bird pets. Where do they fit in the picture here?
Oh, I do have a 17-year-old son named Colonel Mustard. He's an Indian ringneck parakeet. So he just like lives in the house and like flies around and eats doors and.
He was born in captivity.
Right. Yes, he was. I bought him early on, probably in my early 20s, but you live and learn. I didn't buy him from a pet store at least, but I give him a good life. I mean, he's free flighted, good diet. And parrots are very hard to take care of. So
Could that bird live another 30 years?
I don't think he will, but I had a pet dove that I adopted from a magician, and she lived to be almost 16, which is, I like to think I take very good care of my pets.
I'm sure.
Yeah, but yeah, my 17-year-old son, Colonel Mustard, he couldn't be here tonight. Yes.
What's your favorite type of bird?
My favorite type of bird, I mean, I would say the Greater Adjutant. Around here, I love barred owls. I love red-winged blackbirds. Do you have a favorite?
I like eagles.
Eagles are dope. That's a good answer. I like that. We got any more? Yes.
Does the animal counts, any of the animals or birds react to the flash?
I always have a trail cam monitoring the setup, and a lot of people will put them at eye level. I go out of my way to not have these at eye level. My flashes are always 5 feet and above, and most of the time they're up in trees, so they're not even directly hitting the animal's eyes. So I go out of my way to not negatively affect anything, and if I ever see an issue with it, I just take down the setup, because I would never feel good about sharing a photo that did that. But that's a really good question for sure.
So what's the ratio of good photos to?
I mean, you should probably ask my husband, because I'll get a ton of photos and then I'll just see a foot or something and just be so sad. It's a high failure rate, but I thrive on failure. So it's a very high failure rate. It's yes.
Have you had a solo show yet? Your work? Maybe at the new CPW.
I've never had my work in a gallery one day.
Oh, you should.
Yeah.
Yeah, what? Yes, sir.
Will you be showing your work in any place locally in the near future, perhaps?
Actually, I will. Birdcliff has asked me to be part of their show called the
Here now.
Here Now, the best contemporary photographers of the Hudson Valley. So I'm going to have a few photos from beneath the Birdcliff. Thank you. And you can see that in August with a bunch of stuff.
August 12th.
August 12th. This is my manager, Doug. Let's hear it. He's not my manager, but I really want one. Just so I can say I have a manager and give 20% of nothing to someone. Yes, sir, in the back.
About the moths, you said it before, but they're like 10 times as prolific at pollinating as bees.
They did a study this year at the University of Sussex in England where they showed that moths pollinate more than bees.
And do they know why? Is that a function of their numbers or is it a function of their wings?
You know, I actually don't know.
Oh.
I probably should read the entire paper.
Yeah.
What I love about wildlife stuff is I'm just always learning stuff. And I'm always wrong about so many things, so I'll never feel smart. So it just reminds me of my childhood. I love it. Yes, ma'am.
How do you feel about
The spongy moth. Be careful, girl. So the spongy moth, I've never seen more. I've talked to moth friends. I had a moth expert friend that was just in Japan. They're everywhere there. They seem to think, they were brought over by humans, I think from France, and escaped, and they're thriving. When I talked to someone last week about it, they think it's an indicator of climate change and what we're doing to the planet. But I've never seen more than I've seen. I mean, I've read up on it, and there's not much you can do, but the natural world will apparently take care of their populations. They rise and fall every few years. Yeah, oh, wait, yes, wait, we had one in the back first, and then yes.
I was curious about the conservation project in India. They're showing up as doing local advocacy. Obviously, your project is giving them a more global spotlight. Like, how does that work? I mean, is it just a local thing that you happen to come across?
The question meaning how did I find the project, or
for them, how does it work? It's just something that they're doing locally for their.
Oh, got it. Well, Pernina's reach has slowly grown to be worldwide. She travels now and speaks at conferences to inspire other people with this model. She's been giving many awards in India, and you know, she just keeps doing her work. It's hard to do what she does where she does it, and it's just, I would like to see her get more global attention because I think it's something that could be applied everywhere in the world. I really do think she will be Jane Goodall level one day. She laughs because I call her Jane Goodall of Hargila. But that's a great question. She's continuing to do the work all the time. So I'm really happy when I read or hear about her and what she's doing. We had another question in the front.
I have two, actually.
Yeah.
The first is, are there any native species to this area that you haven't captured yet on film? That you're really looking for or hoping for?
I'm trying, my favorite neighbor is a porcupine. I'm trying to think of something I haven't seen up here.
Nice.
A mountain lion. I haven't seen a mountain lion.
All right, well, collectively manifest that.
I know, I've been lucky to see a lot. I've been really lucky to see a lot. I'm trying to think of, that's a really good question because I'm feeling grateful for all I've seen. And I actually love fishers, so don't be hating on the fishers, y'all. I do have pictures of fishers. I love them and I think they're really misunderstood and they don't scream. So please don't spread that rumor. It's like ridiculous. You're hearing a fox, not a fisher. We need predators so bad, you all. We have so many deers because we don't have enough predators. Release the wolves. Yes.
Thank you, yeah, I got you.
That was a predator coming through the wall.
How skilled were you as a child or as an adult at hide and seek?
Oh, I didn't see.
It seems that there might be some carrying.
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually don't know, but I think it is amazing for friends to find out that I'm capable of being incredibly quiet for a very long period of time. But I have gotten pretty good at hiding, and one of my favorite things about working with the type of photography I do is humans are just so unobservant. I can literally be in a public place like I was at Bernheim where there's all the, and nobody sees me. Often my camera setup will be right by a road knocking on, is this real wood? People are so unobservant. And so I encourage everyone to just look closer and observe. Don't look for my cameras, but you know, it's the animals that are really good at hiding. Very good at hiding. And it's just tuning in your eye to see. Do we have any more questions? Oh, yes.
That little shrew you were.
I love the shrew. That's Matilda.
You say that they need to eat every 10 minutes. Is that accurate or?
Yeah, they're like the hummingbird of the shrew world. And they are North America's only venomous mammal. It's another species that you don't hear about or people don't talk about. And I've actually seen the shrew in person and it's adorable. It's very stinky. But I love that there are shrews in my garden because they are taking care of a lot of stuff. Though I think yard snake this year took care of a lot of stuff because I'm seeing less, but you know, that's how it goes.
How big are those?
The shrews?
Yeah.
Well, there's shrews are all different sizes. The northern short-tailed shrew, probably about this big. Very, very tiny. Very tiny. And they have a very high-pitched, I actually heard her hunting one night, and it's very high-pitched, like. We have any more questions? We're getting tired, y'all, and there's one more surprise.
Bring it on.
Okay, well, I just really, seriously, this meant a lot to me. I want to thank CPW for taking a chance on me. Thank you. I really can't tell you how much this meant that you all came out, and I really hope you learned something. And please respect and protect those around you, the wild ones around us, because we have never been in a time in history where we need to protect our natural world more. So what we're going to close with while we mingle, some very dear friends of mine that are like family. I'm 41 and it took me my whole life to find my tribe, but this lady named Ambrosia saw my Beneath the Bird Feeder project and she said, we should write a song about it. And what's really funny about Ambrosia, years ago we were on stage together at Le Poison Rouge. I was doing ventriloquism and she was in her band Chivalry.
No, it was me and Chrissy were there.
Oh, okay. I don't remember. I don't remember that whole period because I was in my 20s in New York. And she brought in Holly and Ambrosia, and then I wrote this much of it. We wrote this song to go along with Beneath the Bird Feeder. So we'll just show this and hope it works. Okay, bye everybody. Thank you. I like how there's no place to go, so I'm just like.
Dark eye, jungle snow. I know that God knows working ground control. Dear night, dear morning time, snow is falling from above. Go on ahead, feel the birds. Life is sweeter, life is sweeter. The sun comes up, I'm shaking it down. Seeds there on the snowy ground. Days are short, nights are long, especially when the venomous shoe comes along. The snow is falling, go feed the birds. Life is sweeter, life is sweeter. Just be me, just be me, just be me. Just beneath the bird feeder, just beneath the bird feeder, just beneath the bird.
I need records and tapes. Really, thanks for coming, you all.